Well, yes. I mean, forensic evidence is often central in a case, and DNA evidence in particular. And so when there's an item, for example, here of an environmental sample of trace DNA evidence that, as I understand it from reviewing the pleadings, was twice tested, first for an STR profile and then later for a genomic profile. There are a number of reasons why it's crucial for the attorney to investigate any testing of evidence that is central to a case. And again, here it's an environmental sample of trace DNA that is being tested. But we also have to appreciate, and again, I'm not a DNA scientist or a biologist, but I'm an attorney that works with experts, and I need to know what type of expert to hire. And one thing that I do realize in looking at this is when there's multiple tests of the same piece of evidence, and you have a genomic profile, actually the entire human genome that is typed from this environmental sample of trace DNA, or at least an SNP profile, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 700,000 locations of data. What does that tell us about the STR profile markers? So, for example, the STR profile markers, which are typed, are 20 out of 30,000 STR markers overall. And so what I would be investigating with a qualified expert is, one, I don't know from the pleadings if there's a whole genome profile that's been developed for forensic genealogy, but if there is, that should contain STR markers. What does that tell us about the reliability of the STR testing? Is there any potential for artifacts? Is there any potential for an undetected low-level mixture? Those types of questions that are potentially available to inquire and ask about, where you have multiple tests of the same piece of evidence, and it's an environmental sample of trace. I've made in testimony before courts where I've been accepted as an expert in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, that the minimum practice standard is that the attorney must obtain discovery of the scientific testing of an evidence sample. And that, particularly so in the capital case, particularly where we're talking about an environmental sample of trace DNA, it's absolutely crucial to get that discovery.
Well, the SNP profile is what is searched in the ancestry database to then identify, potential relatives, and then family trees are built out. That's the object of the SNP testing. What's important to know from a defense perspective in terms of trial work and potential areas of cross-examination, none of it's going to be introducing a statistic that is premised on the assumption of an unrelated universe of people. So what's the chance of finding a profile in a population where there's no relationship, relatedness between that profile and anyone in that group? When the STR match is found, then all building out, all further testing stops on the forensic genealogy side. And so it's important to know who hasn't been tested on the related person side. Limitation on the item being introduced in the evidence, that really goes to the item tested, which here is the environmental sample of trace DNA. And of course, the government has both tested it. For the attorney to be able to fulfill their duty to investigate and satisfy the minimum practice standards, they should have access to the scientific testing of that item of evidence, which is central to the case.